What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Park Lane Podcast. Where the bloody hell do we start today? Another week, another two defeats for Tottenham Hotspur. But just in case none of you know who I am, my name's Luke. I'm joined this week by Wes, the only faithful Spurs fan who wanted to show up. Even the West Ham fan pulled out, unfortunately, this week. No, to be fair, his kid wasn't very well, so we'll give him that. But Wes, just me and you tonight. Definitely time for a kind of in-depth chat about everything that's going on at Spurs. We both have similar but different views. So, how are you anyway, mate?
We're here, aren't we? Let's put it that way. We're here. Yeah, it's just in the words of Ace Hood, same old shit, just a different day, really. We'll get into it, I'm sure. But yeah, it's just a bit. Check if anybody is watching that isn't a Spurs fan and has friends, family members that are Spurs fans. Please check in on them because it's a fragile time. We need your guys' support right now just to kind of get us through this kind of sticky time and sticky period. So like I say, if you have anybody that's not watching that is a Spurs fan that has associates or who's listening that is a Spurs fan, like please check in on them because like I say, we're gonna need a bit of TLC, I think.
Welfare checks are needed in all areas across the UK with Spurs fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, let's talk to a couple of people that are in the chat. So we've got Jay, as always. Thanks for tuning in, Jay. He said one absolutely poor game. That was. It just shows that we are more interested in the Europa League than the Premier League. And then your mum, as always, said evening all.
Yeah.
Um, let's um, let's talk about Liverpool to begin with, because full time's literally just finished, and with for those that obviously don't watch any Spurs games but still listen to our podcast, Spurs managed to lose 5-1 today against Liverpool after going 1-0 up early in the first half. I'm not going to say I'm surprised, right? I'm not going to say that I'm shocked. I'm also not going to say that I'm mad because Ange Postecoglou made 8 changes from the last Premier League game. But I think it was six changes or so in that game from the previous game, or at least the game against Frankfurt in the Europa League. Clearly, this manager is playing for the Europa League and the Europa League only. But how far are these 8 changes from being, a cohesive unit, or even up to any standard of Premier League football? Yes, we're playing probably the best team in the Premier League because obviously they've won the Premier League. But Wes, how do you go about kind of pinpointing where it all went wrong today after going 1-0 up in the first half?
I think, well, initially when I looked at the team, I was a bit like, oh, okay, because that was a kind of lineup for me that I was anticipating would start on Thursday, right? Regardless of whether it's kind of like the Europa League semi-final, that kind of stuff, and our league form, like I looked at that team and I went, I'd have played that on Thursday. Because for me, I think there's enough to in that starting 11 that happened today to get the job done on Thursday. And I think for me, like we had this kind of, and I know it's inevitable that Liverpool were going to win the league, but why, for once in our fucking existence, could we not just be party poopers and just go at it? Um,
Yeah.
and I know the crowd were up at Anfield; they were celebrating way before kickoff, so that could have been fuel and motivation for those group of players to go right, lads. They think they've already won this. Let's go out there and prove them wrong. Um, but obviously that wasn't the case. I actually think the game itself was quite strange in the sense that you would have thought that Liverpool were going to come out all guns blazing, blow us away, a little bit like they did last season.
I thought we were good the first 10 minutes. I thought we
Yeah,
started the game well.
yeah, and I thought it was a little bit kind of nip and tuck. You could argue. Obviously, we then go 1-0 up, and you're like, now then, now then, here we go. We haven't read the script today, and there's a part of you that goes, you know what, I quite like it. But then obviously normality kind of resumed, um, fairly soon after, in the sense that, Liverpool got their goals fairly quickly, and I think that just kind of, I think once they got one, they sensed that they could get a couple, and obviously they managed to, sort of wipe the floor with us. But I think I said this on Wednesday on the Hotspur huddle, where, and I've said it quite a lot in the last few weeks. Like whenever we go or we concede, like I don't see anybody, like there's not anybody in this group that just goes right, like almost calm down. Let's just get back to playing, in a specific way. And it's almost like if we concede first, in particular, we fold like a pack of cards. And I think even though we went 1-0 up today, like as soon as that second one went in, I think every Spurs fan kind of knew, or even when they equalised, because then the crowd's up. Their sense, obviously, they only needed a point. That was it. And somebody messaged me to say that they switched off at half time, and it was as if like we poked the bear, if you like. And obviously Liverpool, like I say, sensed blood and smelt blood and just went for it. And in the end, it was just a massively underwhelming and poor show from everybody. I mean, the goals, near enough all of them were so avoidable from a Tottenham point of view, and it's just individual errors like every week that absolutely kill us. And barring the first goal, because I think the first goal they've carved us open really well. And sometimes you just have to take your hat off and go, do you know what? That's a really well worked goal. But a lot of the others, it's just individual errors, individual mistakes, which no coach, manager in the world can legislate for.
Yeah, 100%. And do you know what? I was going to get onto this later, but now you brought it up, I might as well. Like, I said, and I'll say it again, those that watch our show and listen to our show, know that I'm not, biased when it comes to Ange Postecoglou. But I also think that this is not totally his fault, right? I'm not even going to start with, the injury issues that we've had this season. But I just want to talk about individual errors to begin with. I'm not a football coach, right? But it's hard to coach a team when the majority of the team are making errors week in, week out. I suppose the only thing you can do is try and coach those errors out of the players. But when you have, a team of players that right now should be playing at the highest level, some of the the things that they're doing is ridiculous. Even Vicario's passing from his feet. At one point, we didn't think he was too bad. With passing from his feet. Actually, one of the stats that flew up before we even signed him was to do with his passing success rate and things like that. And he looked like he was absolutely shocked today. He looked like he just couldn't do anything. There was times when he just couldn't deal with it. And I've seen people try and suggest that it's because we play out of the back. That's the reason why play out of the back, and that's why we have so many errors. But we've seen Pep Guardiola's teams play out from the back. We see Arsenal play out from the back. We see Liverpool play out. They played out from the back against us today. Just walk the ball around us. It's individual errors that are costing us. And I think I've got out of the last 11 goals the past 3 Premier League games, roughly in my head before the match. I reckon it's about 8 or 9 goals that we've conceded out of those 11. All have come from individual errors. Every single one of the 4 goals we conceded against Wolves, individual errors. 4 out of the 5 goals that we conceded today, individual errors. Udogie putting the ball into the back of his net. Just bizarre things that happen. Lucas Bergvall, and I'm not getting at him. It's just something that happens. Poor header away that then ends up at Gakpo scores. I mean, the only goal that I can think of in the past 3 Premier League games and last 11 goals conceded was McAllister's unbelievable strike today. But again, it wasn't in the far corner. It was probably just left of the far corner. Could have, or more towards the centre than the far corner. I'm not saying for 1 minute that Vicario was at fault, but that's the only goal I could think of that wasn't a clear error from one of the players. Now, a lot of people will say, okay, well, the manager should then change to adapt because of that. My only concern is what is the other option? We love the ball forward every single time, and then we hope that Dominic Solanke can get something on it. And if he doesn't, we're just inviting pressure back on ourselves again. So it's like, how do we adjust for that? Well, Ange Postecoglou wants to continue to play the same way, and then hopefully the individual errors will get less and less and less. We'll be successful from that. But let's not even forget about the fact that on Thursday night we've got a Europa League semi-final, and this is probably the fourth manager that's ever got us to a European semi-final. It's just right now it's absolute madness at this football club. Anybody suggesting that we need to sack the manager needs to be shot. I don't necessarily mean physically, but figuratively speaking, because it's madness that okay, at the end of the season we can have a discussion and we can say he won the Europa League, but he finished 17th in the league. What do we need to happen? Or he loses on either the semi final or the final, and I think he gets sacked regardless, right? Everything on him now relies on that, but I don't think we can sit here and talk about how it's 100% Ange's fault and his tactics are flawed. I know I've just talked to you for like 2 minutes straight, which is not normal for me, but like, can you unpick anything from that? Like, is there anything that you want to kind of add or talk about?
Yeah, the individual errors, and I spoke about this again on the Hotspur Huddle on Wednesday around Vicario. I am so done with this goalkeeper. Like, so done. He cannot distribute the ball with his feet in the way that everybody thinks he can. Bearing in mind, you are playing away at Anfield, where there is a league title on the line. Why on earth are you trying to just float balls over towards your fullbacks, knowing that they are going to press and press and press? It is baffling. And that is not a stylistic issue in terms of a playing style. That is him playing the game, getting a feel and a sense for the game, and making a decision. He honestly he's too erratic as well in his decision making. Like you look at the goals conceded away at Wolves. Um, Again, really erratic in his decision making. Coming out for Chris Wood's header. I think there was also times today where he's coming out for the ball, he's getting absolutely nowhere near it. As well. And yeah, I think I said after the semi final against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup when we played them at home, Kinski's better, and I got absolutely battered for it. Well, I'm sorry. I know what I see with my eyes, and I know that Kinski is so much better with the ball at his feet. He's a lot calmer in the way that he plays, and I think that calmness stems through the team. And I think because Vicario is so erratic, um, that then goes through the team, and you will see the defenders a lot more do what we call emergency defending, so your last ditch stuff. And there was also times today where I think there was Spence, Danso, like they've got the opportunity just to play the ball back to Vicario and we go out the other way. They've decided not to and turn. Well, that's got to be an issue of the fact they don't trust him with the ball at his feet, surely, because the obvious option is just trust your goalkeeper, just go home, play to your goalkeeper, and we'll go out the other side. So yeah, I think for me, Vicario isn't the goalkeeper that we all potentially thought he was. And I think again,
I
if
like
you
to
it could,
call him, like a TV camera goalkeeper. He
yeah,
likes to
FIFA
try and
keeper,
make
FIFA
those.
keeper,
Yeah, he likes to try and make those flying saves. Coming out, I was about to say fisting the ball, punching the ball.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
that's a different sport altogether.
yeah.
And then like with Chris Wood's header, he comes out to try and punch the ball, to try and be that,
Where's he
show us.
going? Like
Yeah,
genuinely, where's he going? Like
he
stay at home.
stands on his line, he catches that ball, doesn't even move.
Yeah, but then the Wood header that was ruled out for offside is right at him. Fucking save it, you idiot! Like it's right at you. Just stop it going in the back of the net. But yeah, and then obviously the Liverpool goals today, it's like the obviously the first one, as I mentioned earlier, really well worked goal. The second one, Archie Gray for me has to do better. He's got to get there somehow. And it was as if he was towing a bloody caravan, bless him, because
Yeah.
he couldn't shift. And it's like, well, that's a bit worrying when you're an 18, 19-year-old kid and you can't shift. Then the third goal, Brennan Johnson, what on earth is he doing? Like he's another player for me. I'm like, nah, I can't get behind him. Like at Forest, he
It's
was
hard
he
though
was
with
good.
with
At
16 goals in all competitions. I think it is for him. It's hard to like suddenly oust him from a team. Where would we be without those goals?
But then his goals haven't really. We're 17th, so do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where would we be without his goals? Well, arguably in the same fucking position, no better off realistically, because the bottom three have been that bad. We've been saved from an all-time in terms of a relegation battle here. But his overall game, and I think for me, if Johnson doesn't score, you don't know what he's doing on the pitch. But yeah, for me, Johnson again on that goal needs to do better, needs to be stronger. The Salah goal, mate, your doggy. There has these guys have team meetings. I'd love to be in one because they will probably have a full team unit meeting. Then they'll have individual meetings within their unit. So they'll have a defensive unit one with Vicario in the back four that's probably playing. You have a midfield unit one and an attacking unit one. What on earth was said in that defensive unit meeting? I have no idea because anybody that has watched Mo Salah, not even over the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years he's been at Liverpool or however long he's been there, just this season, like just stop him. Don't give him time. Don't give him space in and around the box. Keep him off his left foot. What does your doggy do? Gives him time, gives him space, allows him to do whatever he wants on his left foot. Bang, goal. And then obviously the last one is just like the players had given up, I think, by that point. Um, but yeah, honestly, it's just like an absolute catalogue of errors, but it's like repeat behavior. So therefore, they're not correcting it in training. So it's almost like insanity. And yeah, it's just absolutely baffling. And I think we're going into Thursday now where we just have to chuck everything at it. But we shouldn't realistically be in that mindset, in that situation, whatever you want to call it, where we're having to rely on two games, if you like, to save our season. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Even 3 games, right?
yeah,
Effectively,
yeah,
legs to the end of the final.
because you look at the other so-called Big Six clubs, and when they have an off season, they don't tend to finish any lower than kind of seventh, you would argue, right? I know, obviously, Chelsea not long after they won the league,
Let's be nice.
in the
Give
year,
everyone the
in the
benefit,
year,
right? Top 10.
right, right, okay, we'll go top 10, right? But it's like we're having a disastrous season, and like I said a minute ago, if it weren't for the bottom three, mate, we'd be going down. But then is that what it has to take for some people at this football club to wake up and realise what is actually going on? Because there is no way with our infrastructure, forget everything else, just with our infrastructure, there is no way we should be in the position that we're in. It's baffling. It is baffling. But it's just repeated behaviour, mistake after mistake after mistake from the top, and it's going all the way through the club, and then it's transcending onto the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? Let's just keep flowing with the show and let's talk about Thursday night because we're on the build-up now to a European semi-final, the last one since obviously Mauricio Pochettino, 2019, in the Champions League. But before that, can you remember the last semi-final we had in the European competition? Because I fucking can't.
No.
And I'm your late 20s, I'm mid-30s. Do you know what I mean? So we're old enough to probably remember if it had happened in recent time. Now, this is the only thing that Ange Postecoglou has had saving him for probably the last month and a half, 2 months, I would say. I still don't even know if him winning it would be enough for Daniel Levy. I think, we've had this discussion before. I'm not even going to kind of go into that this week, but this is a semi-final we should be winning. Like, you should look at this semi-final and you should be saying, we are winning this semi-final. The
Mm-hmm.
only way that we win this semi-final, though, is by winning it at home. Because when we have to go to Bodo Glimt, we have to go to Norway, and we have to play on an artificial pitch. We all know what happened against Tamworth on an artificial pitch. We all remember, well, most of us remember, what happened against Young Boys on an artificial pitch in a European competition. So the game is won at home, right? We need to go on Thursday night and we need to get 2, 3 goal lead minimum, in my opinion. We know what Bodo did against Saturday at home, And what's weird is I'm actually confident on Thursday night only because of, our recent European form or, some European form this season. We played pretty well in Europe. It just baffles me that we can go from that game against Frankfurt to playing probably the best game we've played all season to playing Nottingham Forest, and then playing
Wolves as
Bournemouth,
well. Wolves first, yeah, and then Forest.
and then Liverpool are getting battered in each of those games, conceding 11 goals in those games and only scoring 2, I believe. Um, it's just worrying that that we go into kind of the most defining period in our, I would say, in the last 20 years as a football club. But here's a quick question for you: like, what do you? Let's just say hypothetically we win the Europa League, because I was having this argument with somebody today. Do you turn around and say that this has been a good season for Tottenham Hotspur? They will win the Europa League.
No, because it hasn't been a good season.
So
So
win a European competition for the first time in I don't know how many years.
yeah,
You
because
still
I'm looking at the bigger picture here, and I'm going, well, that's just going to paper over a ridiculous amount of cracks. Like I've seen it myself with Arsenal. They picked up FA Cup after FA Cup after FA Cup. Their league form was disaster. Nothing as bad as ours, by the way, because like I said earlier, the other big six kind of have bad seasons, don't finish anywhere, below 10th. But it papered over so many cracks at Arsenal, but the fans were happy because they had the trophies in the bank. And it's like, well, no, actually, look at the direction in which your club is going in. That should be a bigger concern than, oh, yeah, well, don't worry, mate, we won a trophy, haven't we? Oi, oi. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I'm looking at it. And I go, and even if you look at last season, Man United, right? Disastrous season on the pitch, pick up the FA Cup, and Ten Hag keeps his job. Come October, after spending over 200 million, the owners pulled a plug on Ten Hag, and now look at where United are, proper in the mud. We could sleepwalk into the same situation here, and I want to avoid it at all costs because it's not going to work. And I don't think winning the Europa League justifies at present 19 league defeats, going out in the manner that we did in both cup competitions as well. Yes, we got to the semi-final in the Carabao Cup, but the manner in which we rolled over against Liverpool, ironically, we rolled over against them today as well, but the way that we just folded like an absolute pack of cards was not good enough. The way that we didn't really turn up away at Villa as well. Obviously, I know Villa got to the semi-finals and they've lost to Palace, but it's just it's like every defeat feels worse than the last one, and it's like go back to a time where we would go to any ground and give any team a game. Now we've got this inferiority complex of, oh well, we're expected to lose at Liverpool, so if we do get beat, it was kind of expected. Whereas before it was like, no, we're going to go there and we're going to give it a game, and we want to win. That's the Tottenham that I want back, and that's the Tottenham that I certainly in recent years, that's the Tottenham that I was proud to be associated with. Like when I would meet new people or whatever, be like, "Oh, what team you support?" "Oh, Tottenham." "Oh, yeah, they're a great team." Da da da. Now it's like, "Yeah, I support Spurs." It's like for my sins kind of thing. But I think that is what is missing at the football club is just we don't have any belief amongst anybody at the moment. I don't think there's belief at the top to get things right. There's no belief in the manager. There's no belief in the group of players to do anything anymore. And that is a real sad state of affairs given where we were and the point in which we were at not that long ago.
I get that. Right, there's quite a few of you watching today. So first of all, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to hit that like button as well. After this show, go also follow us on all social media platforms. Just search Park Lane Podcast. But also, we want to hear your thoughts during the show. So get your thoughts in the comments. We'll read them out as many as we can, or at least try and show them in the screen. We even show up Johnny, who's our resident Arsenal fan. So if he gets his comments showed up, I'm sure you will as well. It's a really interesting one, Wes, because I don't disagree with what you're saying, but at the same time, I would also suggest that one of the main things that our fan base craves more than anything is a trophy, and we go out and win that trophy, and it will always be a negative about it. There will always be, but it was one of the worst seasons we've ever had. most league defeats we've ever had in a Premier League era. Do you know what I mean? And that's one of the major issues I believe Ange Postecoglou has at Spurs at the moment, but also how the issue that we have as a fan base. And I'm not getting our fans right. Like I think that some of our fans are great. Those that were there today, I thought they were great. That keep supporting the team week in, week out, like yourself, that go, home games, away games when they can.
Mhm.
But my issue with it is that when will it ever be good enough? When will we ever be happy with what we've got? Right? If we win that Europa League, in my eyes, be the best season we've had for as long as I can remember, probably since the Carabao Cup win. Better than Mauricio Pochettino's, season undefeated at home. Better than Mauricio Pochettino's getting us to a Champions League final. Because at the end of the day, the thing that everybody craves and everybody wants is that trophy, right? Yes, the league form has been disastrous, but we can't get away from that. But we can't. We have to also look at positives within those negatives and be like, and this is only if we win it, right? If we don't win, it's been probably the worst season we've ever had. It won't
Mhm.
matter that we got to a semi-final or a final, right? Whilst I will remember us getting to a Champions League final, in reality, it still means nothing because we didn't win it, right? It's the same as anything else. But the one thing we crave is that at least at the bare minimum, it will get some of the people off their back. How many people still say to you, "Oh, when was the last time you won a trophy?"
Oh,
When was
listen,
the last?
I get it from kids all the time.
Yeah,
Don't get it twisted. Like they batter me with it. And yes, it would be nice to go, oh yeah, but we won the Europa League. Duh, duh, duh." But then we'll get that, yeah, but it's not the Champions League, is it? Or how long did you have to wait to get that trophy? Do you know what I mean? So, like you say, there is that part that goes, when will it ever be good enough? But I think from a fan's perspective, it's like, give us a team and a group of players that we can relate to and that we are proud of. And I think we've missed that. Definitely in the last 6 years, we have missed it. There is not probably one full season in the last 6 years where I'm like, yeah, I've got the team that I'm proud of watching. Like, yeah, I love like every single player in this team. Because they work hard, they fight for the badge, they understand what it means to kind of play for Tottenham. They're an absolute roughhouse on the pitch. All of that. It's just it feels like we've got players that are there. I wouldn't say nicking a living because I think that's a bit harsh, but it's just like football is a job to them, and I get that it's a job to a lot of people. But there's none out there that I look at and go, yeah, you specifically want to be there and you want to play for Tottenham and you want to be successful at Tottenham for your career. It almost feels like we're a stepping stone. It's like, yeah, I signed for Tottenham. Okay, if I do well there, I'm going to get my next move.
yeah, and I get that, and that is where it comes from. The club as a whole. That is where it comes from. The board and where it comes from the ownership. Because if we've talked about this again. We'll continue probably to talk about it, but until they start breeding and bringing in a winning mentality throughout the entire club, we won't stand a chance. But one thing that I will say, and I was talking, do you know what? My girlfriend knows not a lot about football. Not her own fault. But that's just life, right? But do you know what she said to me? We were talking about Wrexham. I was like, "Oh, did you see Wrexham got promoted to the Championship?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, that's the one owned by Ryan Reynolds, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And she said, "Well, who knew Newcastle was so good?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, but like the richest club in the world, right?" And she was
Hmm.
like, "Oh yeah." And then we were talking about Wrexham, and she was like, "Oh, it's so interesting, isn't it?" Like we talked about then, like how it's a bit of a boring story, but like it's got a point. How life revolves so much around money, right? And they, comes a lot easier when you've got a lot of money. And you can talk about these football clubs, and Spurs have got a lot of money, right? But when you're trying, and I get it, when you're trying to compete against these powerhouses, these cities, PSGs, for example, Wrexham in a few years will be up in the Premier League. Newcastle will be able to start spending more and more and more and more money. When you get that, I get from an ownership, it's hard. But if you want to do things, kind of the right way with British owners, and all these other types of things that we still try, or I at least try and cling on to, you then have to try and get it right a different way. And it might just be that you bring in a winning culture to that football club for every single day that you're there. And do you know what? It could turn those players up 10, 20%. It could attract different players because they want to be a part of that. Personally, I don't know where we go right now. I think we have to have that discussion after the Europa League and then kind of take it from there. We're in a tricky position. Let me kind of read out some comments from today. So David Clark said, hi from Leicester. There's no disgrace in losing to a side who was won the Premier League by a trot, but it's the way we have performed in these games. Kavinsky Nightglow said, so embarrassed. Maddison turns up more in a big game. He deserves to have better players around him to work with. Now,
What game was he watching? Because
21 goals and assists for Maddison playing with garbage players.
what game was he watching? Because it weren't that one. I can assure you, it was not that one. And the 21 goals and assists, mate, doesn't mean anything, right? Stats are like bikinis, Luke. They are. It's interesting what they show you, but it's even more interesting what they don't show you. Players like JJ Okocha would not survive in this stats-based era of football that we live in. JJ Okocha is a baller, or was a baller. Like, do you know what I mean? It's yeah. So 21 goals and assists, like fantastic. You mentioned Brennan Johnson, 16 goals and assists, or whatever it is. Yeah, but
Goals in your competitions, yeah.
yeah, but his overall play, Brennan Johnson, is shit. So, do
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Stats don't. I know what I see with my eyes, right? And your eyes don't lie to you, which is why I think David Pleat has turned around and said that he's baffled that the club have decided to go full data because you have to, especially when you're recruiting players, you have to see them with your eyes. You have to see what they're like out on the pitch, their body language, how they react, etc., etc. So yeah, Madison, I didn't even realise he was playing in the first half for the majority of it. He was that anonymous again. And yeah, he's probably one of the most frustrating players within our team, but it's all right because he comes out usually on social media, apologizes, and will stand up in front of a camera, etc. But we'll hear the same stories from him and the same script almost. It was exactly the same when Leicester went down. He'd come out in front of the camera and say it's not good enough. Da da da. We need to do better. What's he doing out on the pitch to change it? Nothing, because he's constantly hiding.
yeah.
You can tell when you can tell. Sorry, Luke. You can tell when Madison's up for a game because he's buzzing about here, there, and everywhere. He picks the ball up off the back four and he wants to get on it every time. When he doesn't want to play, mate, he's not even doing anything like that.
Yeah. It's a tricky one because, if we go back to a couple of seasons ago, before we signed James Maddison, one of my concerns with him, and I did retract it after a while, but I feel like I wish I hadn't now, is that I said he was more interested in his, endorsement deals and, outside of football escapades. I've seen him on golfing podcasts, all these different things that he likes to do, which is great. Go and, it's a business, right? Go and make as much money as you can. I don't, go earn your money, right? But the issue is that they also need to perform on the pitch. And he did start to perform when we first signed him. He did, like a lot of players. Problem is, as you say, he has gone hiding. Now, is he hiding because he's being poorly tactically coached, or whatever it is, right? Some people will say probably yes. I think that's a poor excuse to use. I think all of this, Ange's out of his depth, his tactics don't work, he's got no plan B, blah, 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 blah. They're so, so, so poor, like excuses to try and get by. What we need to get by is, what is happening? Why are players hiding? Why is this football club, are we constantly dealing with mediocrity as success,
Can you just pull up a comment that's come in from Kavinsky, right? So it's the
Which
one
one?
about 105 goals and assists in the Premier League in 6 seasons, right? My counteract argument to this is John O'Shea and Phil Neville have both won the Premier League. Would you say they're top class players, in that top elite bracket? No. but they've got some medals to back it up, and everybody that's worked with them has said how solid they were as pros, right? So you can fry all the stats at me. I know what I see with my eyes, mate, and I know that Madders goes missing, Madders goes hiding. Leicester fans warned us that he's good for 10 games, gets injured, comes back, goes missing. It's exactly what's happened.
There's a
Obviously,
reason
in
why Southgate didn't pick him for the World Cup
if
or
well,
Euros.
he's got 105 goals and assists, mate, in the Premier League in 6 seasons. So there's people like that are massively ahead of him in the England pecking order, and there's a reason why Southgate, like you said, didn't pick him. There's a reason Tuchel hasn't picked him because he's not consistent. It should be more for James Maddison with the ability that he has. And I'm not having this thing of he's a number 10 playing as an 8 or whatever. Maddison's probably got the most license in our team to do something. So yeah, listen, Dave, I'll be honest, right? I didn't even realise Kulusevski was playing today. So there you go. I'll throw that one out there. I didn't I knew he'd come on, but I didn't hear his name when I was watching the game. So again, that says it all to me, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I think that and I'm not. Thank you, Kavinsky, for tuning in. I hope you are subscribed because otherwise, what are you doing here? But when we look, we can sit there and talk about like 105 goals, assists in the Premier League in 6 seasons. If that's the level that we want to be like talking about and suggesting is like an elite level player, rather than, as you see, what happens when the going gets tough, that's what I want to see from a player. I don't care if he's got 5 goals and assists this season, but if he's an absolute powerhouse and let's use, I don't know,
Moussa
Moussa
Dembele,
Dembele.
yes, Moose, right? Moose would not have those stats, I assure you. But if you looked at the game with your eyes, he would dominate people like for fun. So, but according to the stat pads, Moussa Dembele is not it, mate. Everybody that's played with and against him says how good he is. So, do you know what I mean? Like I say, there's you know what you see with your eyes, and your eyes don't lie to you. I promise you. And I know that he's commented to say about he's won the FA Cup with Leicester and he's finished twice, sixth twice. Those two sixth place finishes should have been fourth because Leicester bottled it.
Anyway, let's not give Kavinsky any more airtime. Suggesting that we don't get many viewers. We should be lucky that you're here. You can do one for all I care. I couldn't care less. But let's carry on. David Clark. To be fair, I get your affinity to James Maddison. You're a Leicester guy. You have an affinity towards him for his time at Leicester. I don't think that any player deserves a free pass. I'll bring
No.
up the comment here. Don't think
Yeah.
any player deserves a free pass. Kulusevski has had some very good time before he got injured at Spurs, but I think again today he was very very poor. I wouldn't suggest that anybody really has like shown themselves in any kind of amazing light in recent times for Spurs. Personally, the only person that I've really seen that I liked a lot of is still Dominic Solanke. I still think that even when the games are tough, he still gives out. He still gives out whatever he gets. And he always tries to do what he can for the team. One of the big issues that people have with Dominic Solanke is that he doesn't score enough goals for a striker, right? But
Hmm.
my argument is always it's the other parts of the game that he does that makes us kind of tick and makes us get what we require out of games. Let's look at that Frankfurt game. We had to go long when we in our tactic and we went long a lot. His ability to hold the ball up, his ability to play players in, was second to none, and probably the reason why we ended up winning that penalty. And today he scores a great header. But I don't know about you. Is there any other players that? I'm sorry, I can't cope with this
I'm
comment.
looking at this chat as well.
For
It's
those
flying,
that are listening, later on
flying.
the podcast platform, somebody just said Madison and Son are our best players. That says it all, really. But anyway, is there any players that you think kind of have been really good for us this season, or players that you think kind of have stood out amongst the shower of shite?
Yeah. Archie Gray, the centre back version of Archie Gray, has been brilliant. The midfield version or fullback version of Archie Gray has been a little bit questionable. Lucas Bergvall. Now, if we go back to Galatasaray away, he was very much written off, and it was like, nah, it's too soon for him. He needs to go out on loan in January, that kind of thing. His development and his progress has been absolutely phenomenal, and we have got an absolute gem of a player on our hands. He is the Swedish Luka Modric. If ever I've seen a player similar to Modric, it is Lucas Bergvall, and it's quite interesting because Kavinsky and David Clark's favourite player, the man that can do no wrong, also said in the summer about Bergvall and about him. He thought he was a number 10. Actually, he's more of an 8 or a 6. Similar was said about Modric. We all thought he was a 10, and actually he likes to drop in and get the ball off the back four and dictate. So that 6-8 type of player. So yeah, for me, Lucas Bergvall. Every time I am at a game in particular and I watch him, he just gets better and better and better. Yes, today was not his best game by any stretch of the imagination. Can't defend anybody today. But I think, he come on, tried to grab the game by the scruff of the neck against Forest, played two absolute worldy passes as well. And I just think he is somebody that is getting better and better with every single game. And like I say, every time I watch him, he's been phenomenal. So yeah, he's probably the one that I look at and go, yeah, I like probably the most. I think Tell off the left has been a lot better. And I said this to you, Luke, when we signed him, because I know you were apprehensive. I said, play
I'm
him off the
still not
left,
happy with him, but
and you will see a different player. He was probably one of our most effective players against Forest. He was the only one, again, trying to grab the game by the scruff of the neck, trying to make something happen. I think Odebear has shown Brennan Johnson how to be an actual effective winger by just running at your fullback. And I like the fact, obviously, with Odebear, and I mentioned this in the summer, that he can go both ways. And that is obviously a plus for any wide player. The ability to be able to go both ways is always good. But yeah, I think for me, like I say, stand out in terms of progression, development, Lucas Bergvall, 100%. What a
yeah,
boy.
I don't deny that he's been a good player for us this season. I mean, we are clutching at straws really because this team
Mm.
has not been good this season one bit. I want to touch really quickly actually on um, Christian Romero. Sorry, I just lost all my train of thought then. Christian Romero,
Yes.
because it's come out this week. Do you know what? I don't like to read all this shite that gets written about, right? And one of the things that people need to realise is that media is media. And media people, I don't want to be horrible about any media person, right? But most of them are scumbags, right? And the idea of it is to write anything that fits their agenda and what they want to write about. Spurs are the easiest fan base to wind up and the easiest fan base to write about, right? All they have to do is write one thing and everybody just loses their absolute mind. But as they've written it, let's discuss it. So, talked about Christian Romero wants to move to Atletico Madrid in the summer. Now, a quick yes or no. Do you want to keep Christian Romero or should it be sold in the summer?
I think he'll be sold, especially if we look at the game against Forest, in particular. If that's the case, mate, I think there's a queue of people that will drop him off because he was all over the place. And so equally was Van der Ven, by the way. Like the two Chris Wood goals, obviously, again, one was ruled out offside. Van der Ven does not check his shoulder once and does not make contact with Chris Wood. And what I mean by contact is just knowing that he's there. So if anybody did watch it on Monday Night Football, Will still did some fantastic analysis, and I encourage anybody to watch it with regards to he went through a lot, but this part was on defending and
Yeah, I
making
saw that.
sure that defenders have contact with the players next to them. Van der Ven did not do that for both of Chris Wood's headed goals. And it was baffling. Like he doesn't check his shoulder to know is he there, where is he, anything. And it's almost like Van der Ven give someone a yard or 2 yards because he knows he's that quick. Little bit similar in that sense to Carl Walker. Carl Walker positioning often used to get questioned, but because he was so quick, it was that thing of okay, yeah, he's that quick, he can just get in. But fundamentally, defense as a defender, get your positioning right, get your anticipation sorted, so you're not having to run back so much and sprint and do more sprints, especially with Van der Ven's hamstrings being made of cheese string. So I think Romero will get sold. I think it's look, by the sounds of it, he wants to play in La Liga. The matchup with Simeone would feed generations as well. By the way, they are a match made in absolute heaven. Because Romero is and can be an ugly bugger, and Simeone is all for that in terms of the way that he sets his teams up defensively. Romero would absolutely shine at Atletico Madrid, and I think there's a part of me that feels like his head is kind of in that direction. And he's at an age now where he's probably got one last sort of big move left if he is to go. So yeah, I can potentially see him being sold in the summer.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk money quickly, really quickly before we move on. If you're selling Christian Romero, how much you selling him for?
70, 70, 75. I think that's
Well,
fair. I mean,
I would say 50 to 60, but yeah, fair.
we bought him for 40, so do you know what I mean? Like, and the geezer's won the World Cup, so that's got to come in. And then he's played X amount of games in the Premier League. He's full international. That comes into play a lot in terms of negotiations. Yeah, I would be looking at sort of 70. And but knowing Levy will want probably 85, 18, between 80 and 90 million. Yeah, so he could end up pricing someone out. I think it depends if he's going to Atletico, what they'd be willing to do. I think if it's Real Madrid, different story because they're more likely to pay.
Yeah,
Whereas I think Atletico are probably going to be a bit more tactile in terms of their negotiations. I can. There's a part of me that can go that will see around the 60 with add-ons, and some performance-based add-ons in there, which Levy will probably go for because it's like he's getting more money effectively over a period of time. So yeah, I'd probably go with that to be fair.
no, fair enough. Fair enough. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about last week's score predictions before we move on to talking about West Ham. Actually, we will do score predictions for the Europa League game just for a bit of fun. Add that little bit of spice to our lives. But let's talk quickly about this week's score predictions. So we had two games that we gave predictions on this week. For Spurs versus Forest, I went for a 2-2 draw. Tell you what, we nearly got there in the end. I was hoping that we were going to get that draw just so I could get 3 points. We didn't. So no points for me. Winnie had 1-0 Spurs. Dave had 3-1 Forest. Callum had 3-1 Spurs. And Wesley, you had 2-0 Forest. So a few close scores there. And none of us got a correct score. You and Dave got 1 point each. And then we had today's game. I went for 2-0 Spurs just to wind up our mate Ben, who was on last week. Winnie had 4-1 Spurs. Dave had 5-0 Liverpool. Callum had 3-2 Liverpool. Wes, you had 4-0 Liverpool. Again, no correct scores this week, but Wes and Dave both got 2 points, and Callum got 1 point. So that does this now to the table. Winnie's gap is being closed. Dave is now on 19 alongside Winnie. Wes has 16 points, 3 points behind. Callum now has 9 points, and the leading champion, the reigning champion, myself. Oh dear. It's not going against Spurs this season has absolutely killed me because, my rule is I don't bet or predict against Spurs. 19 league defeats or whatever it is now. Not helpful, is it really? Let's talk about Thursday. Actually, how are you feeling quickly about being third, closing your gap on Winnie?
I'll take it. First season in, I'll take it. I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. There's still a long way to go. Some, quite a few games left. But if someone offered me third place, Luke, at the start of the season, I'd have taken it. Put it that way.
That's the problem with these Spurs fans. They always settle for mediocrity.
Yeah, well,
No, nice one, nice one. It'll be nice to see both you and Dave overtake Winnie till the end of the season, wouldn't it? The
Yeah.
Wonder
Well, I mean,
Wheel.
how are you feeling? Because obviously, champion last year, now you're bottom. It's almost like Spurs, at the top end of the table last year, and now like at the
Right.
bottom this year.
Do you know what I actually considered when I was creating the scores? I actually considered this week going against Spurs just because I just
Mm.
thought I need to like try and claw some score results back or some score, or some points back. There we go. But I may have done. I may not have done. We'll find out
No.
shortly. Talking about Bodo Glimt, I'm just going to be honest with everybody here. I'm going to get my score prediction in. So let us know in the chat your score predictions for the Europa League game. I'm going 3-0 Spurs. I'm
Solid.
thinking confident, get the job done at home, go there, squeaky bum time because I'll score early, and see how we get on. But Wes, what are you thinking for the Thursday night's game?
Uh, I'm gonna go same as you, 3-0. But the only thing, if we can we play the kids this time, because obviously we played Bodo Glimt in the league phase and won it with the kids, so the kids kind of know what they're doing. So can we just chuck them in for this one? And yeah, I think. But then obviously the last time we had a 3-0 lead in a European game, Luke, as we both know, we ended up kind of losing it. So is what it is. But yeah, I'll go three. I'd love four. That would make me feel really confident, but I'll say three.
Imagine we went 4-0, that'd be unbelievable. Um,
Yeah, we'd lose 5-0 knowing us in the in the return leg and just be proper
yeah.
Spursy.
We've got 4-0 Spurs from your dad, 2-0 Spurs from Jay, 2-1 Spurs from your mum. There are some other chat. I'm not ignoring everybody. It's hard to get to all of these comments. David Clark said, my prediction would be that Spurs would lose 20 games in the Premier League season. Seems to be very conservative. I mean, if you predicted that before the start of the season, it's unbelievable because you'd be
Yeah,
pretty much predicting relegation.
yeah. Like I'd love to know if David Clark actually predicted that before the start of the season, and if so, his reasoning for that. But at the start of the season, like obviously not now because we know we're awful. But I would love to just understand what went through his head at the start of the season. If he's gone, yeah, we've lost 20 games, but this is the reason why.
Yeah, definitely. Right, let's crack on. Let's talk about next Sunday's game away at West Ham in the Premier League. It's wait, let me think about this. It's 18th versus 17th in the Premier League. It's
It'd be
obviously,
16th, be 17th, no?
yeah,
Because
16th versus
18th,
17th. That's
18th goes down.
But whatever, mate. It's just as bad as each other, isn't it? It's hard. It's hardly one for the to tell your kids about, really, is it? But look, this is a game we can't lose. I've been thinking about this all day.
In the
Like,
words of Mick McCarthy, we can.
I mean, we can lose. We probably will lose, but we can't lose in the sense of I've never cared about playing West Ham, not once. And I was going to say this to our mate coming on today. I've never once cared about beating West Ham. I've never once cared or even called it a London derby in my head. I don't think the West Ham and Spurs are on the same level in the sense of, I think about Chelsea and Arsenal, only London teams I care about. Don't care about Fulham, Brentford, don't care about any of them. Now, this is bigger than North London Derby for me. Like, if we lose against West Ham, no matter whether we're 71st in the league, 21st, 17th, 16th, wherever we are, we lose this game. I don't know what I can do anymore because they are in such bad form. Graham Potter, who knows what he's doing? Do you know people were trying to call for Graham Potter before we got Ange Postecoglou? By the way, that's a completely um, different conversation to be had. But yeah, I just think that we can't. Ange is better than Graham Potter. This Spurs team is better than that West Ham team.
Mm,
There's nowhere we lose this. I just
mm.
don't see it. What are you thinking?
Okay, so I was similar to you in the sense that I never used to bat an eyelid about West Ham. I went to university, and the guest that we were due to have on tonight is a friend of mine from university. It's because of him. I wouldn't say solely him, but it's because of him. I now cannot stand West Ham. Like I said, I never used to mind. I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, like you said, the ones for me was sort of Arsenal and Chelsea, and then I've gone to uni, and yeah, because of the guest that we were due to have on, I now can't stand West Ham. Obviously, it's Derby Day in my household as well, because my
Oh
my
yeah,
partner's
yeah.
my partner's West Ham. So we've kind of had it rough between the pair of us this season. So yeah, and I think she does go to games when she can. And I think she's on a bit of a treacherous record this season because I think she may have only seen them win once if she's lucky at this stage of the season when they've gone, which again is a bit of a killer in itself. But the thing that I hate the most is that regardless of what form West Ham are in or what form we're in, West Ham just turn up against us more often than not. And when they do us over, mate, you never hear the end of it for a good while. So yeah, it's a game that West Ham away in particular. It's a game that I don't now really look forward to because I know what's going to happen. They're going to be bang up for it. They've got points to prove, etc., etc. I think all of our eggs are in the Europa League basket. Nobody really seems to care or give a shit anymore about the Premier League season. So, do you know what? It wouldn't shock me if they end up turning us over, and then I've got to then deal with the fallout, not from my partner, but from my mate who was due to come on, and then other people that come out the woodwork who claim to be West Ham fans that have been really quiet this season, and it's just like, ugh. So yeah,
It's the top final against us, isn't it? That's the issue. And I think that's kind of what David Clark's saying here is West Ham have the shittiest team and be on the worst run in their club's career, but when they play us, their testicles grow to twice the size, making it a terrible clash.
yeah.
And Daniel 90 has just said we will lose every Premier League game between now and the end of the season.
Do you know what the scary thing is? That is a
Daniel
stark
90, to be honest.
that is a stark possibility because again, if you look at our fixtures post West Ham in the Premier League, I think we've got Crystal Palace, who will now be absolutely flying because they're in the FA Cup final. Villa, who are a really really good side as everybody knows, and then Brighton, who are no mugs either. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a sticky one for us now in the Premier League between now and the end of the season. So yeah, it's just not looking good. I have to say, it's not looking good.
It's a very bold statement now, right? And it's to do with this comment here.
Yes.
I will take losing every single game till the Premier League season ends. I will take finishing 17th in the league. I will take losing the most amount of games in entire Premier League history, the history of the entire football club, to lose that amount of games in one season. For us to stand there with Ange Postecoglou lifting the Europa League trophy in Bilbao. And I'm going to be completely honest. I will take all of those things and I will trade it all in for us to win the Europa League. Now, there's also a very big possibility that we lose the Europa League and we also lose every other game left in the
Yes.
season. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the worrying thing. Like, no Spurs fan has any real confidence in going into games. Like, we're always on that side, edging on that and on that side of caution. So, yeah, this obviously not a good look.
definitely not. Right, let's get our score predictions in. I will go first, and I will give my score predictions first, because I'm a nice guy. Just bear with me while I load up the wheel because we're gonna need the wheel soon.
Busy tonight,
So,
the wheel.
huh?
It's going to be busy tonight, the wheel.
I know. Well, Dave gave his score prediction already, so I'll go with his first. Dave has gone for 2-1 Spurs away at West Ham, which is quite confident for Dave. Now, I'll be the reason why I read that out first is because I also had 2-1 Spurs, but I don't like to, copy. Not a big copycat. So I've upped my score to 3-1 Spurs. He's confident. He's confident. He's not going to go against Spurs. But I was torn between that and a draw. So, that's kind of where we're at with that. Do you want to go next? Or would you
No,
like
no, I'm
to
going to get the wheel up. Get the wheel up.
Okay, here we go. Right. Now, just to make it fair, Wes, because, I like you and you're a nice guy. Before this
Thanks.
show, before we were talking and we tried to put all the scores in the right order, put all the
Yeah.
scores in and make sure, all the rest of it. What I actually did was actually, do you know what? We'll do it now. We're on the phone. We're going to shuffle. I went onto ChatGPT before, and I
Yeah.
asked it to give me every single score possibility between 0-0 and 5-5, and then I copied and pasted it straight onto the wheel. So now we have no issues. There's no errors. We have a
Okay.
clean wheel and a
Okay.
clean fight draw.
Okay.
So let's go and start with Winnie. Whilst we do this, make sure you're getting your score predictions in the chat so we can read them all out. Let's go with Winnie first of all and spin the wheel for him. Remember, this is West Ham versus Spurs.
Is that 5 foot?
Spurs
Yeah.
5, West Ham 4. Right.
Goals galore.
Yeah. I mean, you could be onto something here, Wesley, if you can get a correct score.
Yes.
And then we'll spin the wheel for Callum. And he's got 5-3 West Ham.
Oh.
These are scores that you would never think could come true, apart from when Ange Postecoglou was the manager of Spurs.
Literally. It was never like this at
Um,
Celtic, was it? Let's be honest.
yeah. And what are you going for then?
I'm going to go 2-0 West Ham.
Oh, dear Lord, right. 2-0 West Ham. Your missus will be happy with that. All right,
Oh,
2-0
she'll be buzzing.
West Ham. Right, so those scores are now locked in. I've gone 3-1 Spurs. Winnie's gone 5-4 Spurs. Dave's gone 2-1 Spurs. Wes has gone 2-0 West Ham. And Callum has gone 5-3 West Ham. David Clark says West Ham can't score in a brothel, but this is NHS Spurs. David Clark has gone 2-2 as his score.
He's on
Wes
for a Desmond.
has gone 3-2 Spurs. Your mum has gone 3-2 Spurs as well. And Jay has also gone for a Desmond. 2-2. So, some very similar score predictions in there. Look, I hope to God we won't concede quite against West Ham, but who knows? The last thing we'll leave on is David Clark says Spurs will reach the Europa League final, and the final is a toss of the coin. Yeah, it's a difficult, it's a more heavy toss of the coin on one side when it's if we have to play Athletic Bilbao. But
I was just going to ask you, Luke, who would you prefer in the final if we got there?
I'm going to say, do you know what? I'm going to say Bilbao, and there's only one reason for that is because in my odd brain, I thought when we've beaten United 3 times this season, riding our luck to play them again and say, do you know what? Let's beat them again for a fourth time. Do you know what I mean? 3 times a charm. Fourth times, you're riding your luck a little bit. But do you want to play the home team in the Europa League final? Look, let's leave that discussion and have it as and when we get to it, because we have run out of time for this evening. But thanks to everybody that's tuned in, even those that don't like us so much, we do still appreciate you, and you are loved. Make sure you go and check on all your friends who are Spurs fans. Anyone you know, your neighbours, your grands, your brothers, or your dogs, if they support Spurs, go and make sure that they're okay. Wesley, thanks again, mate, for coming on. It's been a pleasure. How can everybody find you? And tell everyone what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, not a lot to be fair. But yeah, everyone can find me on Twitter at Wezo10, unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account. Dele Alli's GOAT, as he tweeted the other day. So yeah, that's where people can find me on Twitter. Instagram's at Wezo32. Usually at a Spurs game, although with the recent fixture scheduling, I think my last game will be the last home game of the season that I'll be able to get to, unfortunately for me. And then if anything football coaching related is Kickoff Football Academy or Kofa MK across all your socials for that. Also on the Hotspur Huddle on a Wednesday, myself, Holly and Nelson is like the BTEC CBS panel as well. So yeah, we have some good fun on that. But more importantly, make sure people are liking, subscribing, commenting, leaving 5-star reviews, all the good stuff on here, because it does go a long way.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for that, mate. Done half my job for me there. But I'm going to make not really an announcement, but kind of call out to anybody who's watching. Do support Spurs. Are you interested in joining our podcast? Because we are open to having new members as part of the panel. Do you want to join myself, Wes, Dave, Callum, and sometimes Winnie? Because applications are now open to become a member of the team. All you've got to do is submit a 500-word essay up to what? No. Just reach out to me on Twitter, Luke_Park Lane, or just Park Lane Podcast on any of our social platforms. And, let's have a chat. Let's see if it'll work out. We're just looking for new people that want to come and join the team. So, why not? And look, we don't care about views and clicks and clickbaits and all the rest of it. If you just want to come on every week, have a bit of therapy and talk about Spurs, that's what we're here for. Let me know and we can go from there. But we will have clips throughout the week on all social platforms. So make sure you go out and search Park Lane Podcast wherever you look on the internet, apart from certain sites because we're not on those. But that kind of does wrap us up. Thanks again for everybody that's tuned in. We appreciate every single one of you. And I suppose we'll see you next week when we may be chatting more victories, or we could be chatting more losses. But until then, have a good week, look after each other, and come on, you Spurs.
How are you, Spurs?